bathong telechang bese ke sipele ke le day ke sipele le na
Hip hop is a lifestyle, as you can speak. So
It's local,
oh
but
yes,
it's
it's
now international.
You are now tuned into Skills Village Radio.
Good morning, Mr. Tapp, and to you and to your listeners. It's a great opportunity to be on Skills Village Radio.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Welcome to Empowering Education and Employment with myself and Sasa. Sasa, please say hi to Mr.
Hi,
Jase.
Mr. Jase. How are you?
Very well, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good. Welcome to Skills Village Radio.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
for this
Mr. Jase.
opportunity.
Sure, Mr. Jase. I am gonna drag it back to the very first time when you and I met, right? We met. Sure, I don't know. I think I still did not have a big belly. You see, that's how long time ago. I did not have mkaba. It was many ETV, right? When we had an interview, we met. It was around 4-5 a.m. when we met and we having a cup of coffee. Do you remember that day?
Yes, I do. It was very many years ago, and it was around the elections, I think.
Yes. It was around election time.
Yes, yeah, we were talking about blind people voting.
Ah, yes. Your memory is much sharper than mine, Mr. Jase. But anyway, I see you go Lapo, right? Mr. Jase, can you just briefly share with our listener who is Mr. Jase now?
I am currently the CEO at Blind SA, and I've been here now since 2016. Prior to that, I worked as the National Executive Director for the South African National Council for the Blind. And in between that, I also served as the Secretary for the South African Disability Alliance. I come from a township in Durban called Chatsworth, and I schooled at the Arthur Blackshaw School for the Blind in Pietermaritzburg.
Wow. I love that. So, Mr. Jase, currently as the CEO of Blind SA, I have a great interest in finding out what is your core interest, for the radio station. Sorry about that. Your core mission for the organization.
I think as Blind SA, and this also epitomizes what I believe in very strongly, is there's an absolute need for more advocacy, awareness raising, lobbying and networking, so that we can change lives, we can influence the way the public perceives blind and partially sighted persons. And we as blind and partially sighted people have a responsibility in self-advocating and promoting the interests of blind people. So advocacy, I think, is a very crucial part of what I've been, what my belief is, and the work that I've been doing now for the last almost 40, 50 years in our community.
Sure. Well done. You've done very, very well actually as an organization. But just to jump in there, what was Blind SA's main core value be when it was established? Just a vast history about it.
Blind SA was established way back in 1946. So this year we turn 80 years. It was started up by a group of blind and partially sighted individuals who were then employed in some of the hospitals and some of the mining houses in those early years.
Yeah.
And they saw the need to try to look at finding employment for other blind people. And they set up this networking opportunity amongst themselves to see where there were employment opportunities. And at that stage, the main employment was largely as telephonists or switchboard operators. So that is how this organization in 1946 started off. And over the 80 years, it just grew in stature, in trying to support the needs of blind and partially sighted people. And today it is an organization of persons with disability. We have 52 branches in all 9 provinces in the country.
Yeah.
And our main activity is advocacy, trying to provide networking opportunities, trying to encourage blind and partially sighted people to be involved in the work of uplifting their lives as well as the lives of other blind people.
Yes.
So we work with over 3,000 volunteers who are all blind or partially sighted around the country.
Sure. No, well done. I'd love that. Personally, as an individual who's visually impaired, when I lost my sight, actually, the very first place I was shared or referred to was to you guys, which is Blind SA. So I highly appreciate that. So since Blind SA has influenced policies nationally, right? I'd love to find out, amongst them all, which one of them all are you most proud of, and why?
Ooh, that's a tall order. But maybe I think the copyright the advocacy that we undertook
Yes.
over the last 20 years, I think must be the most rewarding, of course, with the Constitutional Court declaring that the 1978 Copyright Act is unconstitutional in that it violates the basic human rights of blind and partially sighted persons by not having exceptions and limitations to allow us to transcribe material in braille, in large print, in audio, and in other electronic formats. And that struggle, I think, has been a long struggle. We've won part of that battle in that the Constitutional Court in May 2025 read in Section 13A into the 1978 Act, which now provides the exception and limitation. Blind and partially sighted people are no longer criminals if we transcribe materials into Braille. Of course, the next step is to have South Africa ratify the Marrakesh Treaty,
Sure.
which is an international treaty ratified by over 130 countries already, and in Africa 30 countries, but South Africa has not yet ratified that. Now that we have this legal framework into our law, we are advocating with the Department of Trade and Industries and International Relations for them to urgently ratify Marrakesh. The third leg of that is the Copyright Amendment Bill, particularly in terms of the exceptions and limitations for education, for library, for archives, where we're saying that there must be permission for us to transcribe materials in all those formats for those purposes without being prosecuted. So those exceptions, that is still in front of the Constitutional Court, and we hope that we get judgment in that pretty soon. That act also helps us as creators, as authors, as the musicians, as performers, because it's about guaranteeing royalties and guaranteeing blind and partially sighted artists the opportunity of having contracts that they could negotiate
Yes.
so that they are able to earn a livelihood from this particular area of arts and culture. So those two legs are still to be accomplished, and we hope that that would happen in the near future.
Sure, that's amazing because it also brings me to my next question that I'm very curious about, right? You are currently serving under the Minister of Basic Education advisory committee for regarding people with visual impairment and so forth and learners. What does it mean and how do you feel about this and how the goal that you have received so far in achievements that you would love to share with us? And how do you feel about that actually, hey?
Yeah, I serve on two of the ministers' committees. The first one is on the learner-teacher support material, specifically around Braille and other accessible formats. And the second one, which we can come to, is around the review of White Paper 6 on inclusive education.
Yeah.
In respect of the learner-teacher support material and Braille and other accessible formats, it is a sad situation that blind and partially sighted learners, firstly, maybe we need to take one step back. South Africa professed to support inclusive education. However, blind and partially sighted children are sent to a special school, either a school for the blind or a school for the blind, as well as with other disabilities like physical disabilities or deaf learners. So blind and partially sighted children are segregated from home and are put into these special schools. Generally, they are residential schools far from home, and that creates to a whole range of social issues that affect children.
Yeah.
But amongst those discrimination and those challenges, you find that learners then are further discriminated in that not every child has a book in Braille or large print or have assistive devices like a Braille writing machine or a reading device that could assist them. I've personally experienced schools in the country where one Braille machine is shared amongst 4 or 5 children.
Oh no.
And particularly when you're writing exams and tests, you've got to share the machines. Children do not have textbooks. Teachers have to read to our learners or have to make notes and give to our learners, or our learners have to get some of the partially sighted children in the hostel or staff in the hostel to help them to read so that they can get education. This is not equal education then.
It's not.
So we had to take the Department of Education to court in 2019, and we managed to reach a out-of-court settlement with the National Department as well as the 9 provincial departments. And they undertook to provide the reading material in accessible formats within 36 months. And we now almost, 7 years down the line, and the department has still not, or let me put it this way, not every child in the special school for the blind has a textbook in an accessible format or has an assistive device that they could utilize. So can you imagine how then those children who are at mainstream school, what support are they getting? So we find it very difficult in terms of that particular provision. Similarly, I said we are part of a task team that's reviewing White Paper 6, which is based on inclusive education. We have 23 schools for the blind in the country, and if the Department of Education is not in a position to provide these essential accessible format, textbooks, workbooks, assistive devices, braille writing machines or reading machines and things like that, how are they going to provide for children who go to mainstream schools? So
Sure.
it's a serious issue, and of course, the, the Department of Education is not implementing inclusive education as it was envisaged in 2001. And we hope that the current minister and the department are giving serious attention to remedy the challenges and allow children to go to their local community schools so that they can be part of the local community. We can be part of participating in those activities. We will have friends in our neighborhoods itself, unlike going home only during school holidays, and we find that we therefore live in a ghetto in a residential facility.
I love that. And before I hand over to Sasa, she actually shared something with our previous, in the previous hour, and she said, before, I believe you are aware that Mr. Enoch will be dropping down this year's budget speech, right? And she was like, you know what? I think she's frustrated. You know what? The minister should take all this 350 relief fund and remove all this funds and use this money to build schools for people with disabilities and assistive devices. Sure, we laughed, but anyway, it depends on the minister himself. Sasa.
But what I'd like to say is that we support the idea that we should go to the local school. Why build special schools? Special schools are costly to run the hostel, to provide staffing and things that. Why don't you allow us to go to the local school, provide itinerant educators who can provide braille or orientation mobility so that we are part of that community itself?
Yes. Sure.
Yeah, this is actually amazing. Yeah, I was quite frustrated the hour. That hour, I was actually frustrated that people have to go through all of this, but there are funds that are just sitting and doing nothing. You see that, but you have worked on the White Paper 6 review. What changes are still urgently needed in inclusive education?
I think firstly there's a great need to create awareness and change attitudes and mindsets. Firstly within the policy makers at government level, with educators, because when the educators are going to college, they go there to learn how to teach. All they need support in is how do you adapt that curriculum, how do you adapt your training methodology to teach other children with disabilities? Because you're an expert in teaching. That's what you've been trained for. So all we need to do is to look at how do we provide that additional support to the educators so that they can provide education in the same classroom for the learners. This must go with, like you say, the resources. There is no point putting a child in a school if you're not going to provide the resources for the child to participate in that classroom. Then it's also very important that our communities, our families, our parents also understand the need for their children to go to the local schools. What has set in now is that some of our parents are using these social security grants that they get for taking care of these children for other purposes. And therefore, they would not want those children to be deprived of education. So we're saying if parents themselves also, there's awareness, and if children integrate at an early stage, at early childhood development, at preschool, at creche, then we wouldn't have the segregation. They are doing it at universities and TVET colleges. So why not in school itself?
Yes.
So we won't need to have separate education.
That's true. That's true, Mr. Jase. So, having led organizations like the SA National Council for the Blind and the African Union of the Blind, how has your leadership evolved over the years?
It was a great experience, I think, for me, interacting with great leaders within South Africa, within firstly the visually impaired communities, as well as the disability community in South Africa. But also we know that there are great citizens we have here who do not have any disability and have been strong advocates supporting the need for empowerment and creating reasonable accommodation and creating a environment that we could all participate equally with. Similarly, I had the opportunity of visiting most of our African countries and engaging with leadership in those countries on the kind of services that they have, the attitudes of communities, of policymakers, of funders, in terms of how we move people, how do we empower people, how do we ensure that we don't remain dependent citizens, and we too can participate in the economy, we can pay taxes, and we can be involved in civic and the community life in general. And there are great examples of people that have shaped my thinking from Africa and from outside Africa on how we've been able to continue this advocacy now, for the last 40 odd years. We've not achieved great strides, but we have certainly made achievements with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, in South Africa ratifying that convention and developing the white paper in South Africa. But in South Africa, we're still looking for an overarching disability act that can guarantee us those rights, like they have in some of the other countries. And, in Uganda and Kenya, in Zimbabwe, they lead in this area. And South Africa has a very crucial role to play in changing these policies and mindsets in our country.
Mr. Jase, firstly, I just want to find out, right? Unfortunately, this is, we were shortly running out of time and so forth. But what is the Marrakesh Treaty, where you are a chairperson in Africa? And I just want to find out what progress is the Marrakesh Treaty making in Africa?
Firstly, the Marrakesh Treaty is an international treaty to facilitate access to published works in accessible formats for blind, visually impaired, and other print disabled persons. In South Africa, there's less than 0.5% of our published works available in accessible formats. Like that, in other countries, it ranges from 1 to about 10%, depending on which country you are in. So the Marrakesh Treaty was adopted in 2013 by the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, to try to create an international treaty that would allow for books in accessible formats to be exchanged across borders. For instance, we here in South Africa produced The Long Walk to Freedom, the biography of President Nelson Mandela. We are not allowed to export that book in Braille to other countries because we don't have an agreement with other countries. So the Marrakesh Treaty will enable us to do that, so that we can exchange. There are millions of books currently available throughout the world, which is already made available in accessible formats. And we can't access that because South Africa has not ratified that Marrakesh Treaty. Yet Lesotho, Swaziland, the Botswana, Malawi, Zimbabwe have all ratified the Marrakesh Treaty. Now, if South Africa ratifies that Marrakesh Treaty, Blind SA operates the Blind SA Bookshare Library. Bookshare has over 1 million accessible books, but we in South Africa can only access a small percentage of those books whose authors have given us permission to download those books.
Yeah.
With the Marrakesh Treaty, we'll have access to all those books. You can download it on your smartphone, on your book reader, on your computer, and then be able to read it. So there's an absolute need for South Africa to ratify the Marrakesh Treaty because it's a book famine. And it means that there are very few books that blind and partially sighted people can read. I've explained to you the challenge of our learners. Similarly, those that are going to universities, there's challenges in getting research material or books. There's a need for you to read books for recreational purposes so that you can have leisure time. But if you don't have access to getting those books, you then remain ignorant, you remain illiterate. So South Africa needs to ratify that Marrakesh Treaty, like over 130 countries have already done so.
Sure. Mr. Jase, thank you so much. Unfortunately, I think we would need to invite you here in studio and we need to give you 2 hours because of the vast knowledge that you know and you have around persons with disabilities, particularly those who are visually impaired. Mr. Jase, in wrapping, I just want to ask you 2 basic questions, right? One is just our parting question, but what is your vision for the future of persons with disabilities or visually impaired in Africa? In short, please.
Yeah, I think, we've made great strides over the last decades, and it is important as people with disability that we self-advocate, we create awareness, we change mindsets, and that we must continue to do that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Mr. Jase. And the last question, and you can also then share your contact numbers for the organization where those who are listening have great interest in tapping into your services as Blind SA. My question is, Mr. Jase, right? I'm putting you in a corner now. If you were to be a superhero, right? What would be your superhero name?
Let me do the easier one first.
The easier one is your contact numbers for Blind SA.
Yeah. Firstly, I think we're finding every day we're getting literally hundreds of calls, emails, inquiries. People are losing their sight on a daily basis because of health reasons, because of environmental reasons, because particularly of diabetes, of violence, and so forth. So there's a need, firstly, to ensure that we access services. If we know somebody who's blind or partially sighted, try and contact a local organization for the blind. Failing that, contact Blind SA on www.blindsa.org.za. Write to info@blindsa.org.za or call our national office on 011-839-1793. If we are unable to assist you, we will certainly refer you to another organization or to a state department that can help. But it is important that we try to empower our communities and not continue the stigma, the discrimination. Let's all work together. It's important that we uplift our community.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Jase. But don't run away from our question. Our superhero name.
I'll leave it to you and your maybe listeners to provide suggestions that we can consider. But all I say I need to do is to try to improve the quality of life of people.
The quality of life for people. Thank you so much, Mr. Jase. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And we'll definitely invite you again, actually, officially, and have an extra 2 hours so that you can just share the vast knowledge that you have. Thank you so much, Mr. Jase.
Skills Village Radio.